Let's go talk a little bit about this EU agreement with free trade between Vietnam and EU. So, what are the core messaging to it? How do you see it? And being a co-founder here, being working here, how do you think that what are the key benefits is there for Vietnamese SMEs and startup founders?
To finding trust in some people, and that's not an easy thing. You may be excited by meeting a guy that would perfectly fit with your strategy, would complement your business, you could do great things together. Then you start to be blind on some small signs of, dodgy things that could happen. So if you don't address that right away, you'll pay it millions times after, because partnership can go terrible. I experienced some bad stories, but in the worst case, I mean, the experience gives you this ability to try to put your excitement aside and start to read the guy you are in front of, or the person you are in front of you. Try to read why is he interested in that, what could happen, and start to have tough conversations. Say what if my part of the business works better than yours, and then what happens if? So discussing early how things can go bad is probably the best way to put away the risks, or at least be clear that it's not a good partnership to build. So sometimes it's better not to find the partner and to let go on some opportunities that look exciting than engaging in a toxic partnership. Sorry.
Number one, you mentioned about the trust. What will be the number two?
Trust and ability to read people, and this is a human skill. This is not a business skill. It's not being good at business that will give you this ability to read, and listening and being able to observe and not interpret too quickly as is telling me something, so I already project myself in what he's saying. Being able to take a distance, observe and read people, and be blunt on what you see, don't try to make it nicer than it is. That's been probably the second aspect.
Third one,
you're tough. You're tough on me. I mean, if you solve those two, building trust through reading people, you already done 90% of the work. After, it's really about it's, if you relate more to business, is there a potential cultural fit? If you are two organizations, a startup and another startup, or an SME with whatever, if you're two organizations and the outcome of the two is potentially greater than the addition of each individual, then you got something. But don't look at the numbers of what things how things can turn out in the future. If you don't look at the number with your potential partners, don't go for it. It's really money that kills partnership mostly. So numbers needs to be discussed early enough, so every situation, every scenario is clear for everyone. Look at numbers. That's the third one.
All right. So just to summarize, number one, you want to build partners. Focus on building trust, the person you can trust. Number two, build a ability to read and understand people. And number three is about discuss the numbers in the very early stage. Don't leave it for the last moment. Then it can simply blow a great partnership out. So thank you. So let's talk a little bit about this one right now. So now going global is kind of because of the internet and IoT, and companies and founders are very excited about going global, and it's gonna happen. Let's talk about even like 4 or 5 years ago, Uber dominated all over in like 3, 4, 5 space. Grab as well too, and now there's some other tech companies also in this space as well. At the same time, there's some even non-technological company also going global as well too. Digital marketing as a service, SaaS product, those things going global as well too. So what will be your, let's say, top 5 tips when a company, SMEs or founders should decide it's time for them to go in global? What are the things, is a symptom or capability they need to build on?
It has to be early. It has to be part of your initial strategy. If you build a product for Vietnam and it fits perfectly for Vietnam, it's been designed around Vietnam needs, that's going to be hard to put it aside, even in Thailand or Philippines market that are around. It's not the same behavior, the same way of thinking, the same way of paying, the same way of contracting with someone. So if you don't design your product to be at some extent scalable globally, low chance that you'll make anything from a local product out. It can be very successful locally, and sometimes it's worth not to go global and just really focus on your domestic market. If you've got a gem domestically, then you could sell it out as an entrepreneur later on to a bigger company. But you need to be strong at some point. So don't go too early. Go global, but go global by design. Don't go global by opportunity. It's not going to work. And I've seen thousands with different incubator roles I'm having for different startups. I see a lot of company, failing in or being too ambitious in trying to reach out markets they have no clue about. Be strong where you are first, and then potentially take the time to scale up, or design your product to be scalable right away, and go to Singapore, to Europe, to US early, so you start to be global from early stage. That's the 2 pathways somehow.
So just to summarize, number 1, you mentioned about plan early, think about go global by design. This is the word you say, that go global by design. Mm-hmm. Number 3 is be strong on your niche. Is there any 4 and 5th you want to add? Let's say what kind of capability they need to build on.
Yeah, after we see a lot of very good startups, Vietnamese startups, very clever ideas, sometimes not the most innovative, but very practical, and say that's going to work, that's going to add value, that's simple enough, it could work. But then if the founders and the leaders of the companies can't speak English, for example, that's becoming quite hard. It's a quite simple fact, but we have a lot of very fantastic entrepreneurs that are stuck with language barrier and being a bit shy about their English, and not being comfortable in reaching out to other markets. So this ability to communicate in a proper English, not saying mine is good or any perfect, but it has to be a certain vocabulary that you need to learn to be credible, to be clear, and I would say for Vietnam and Vietnamese entrepreneur, this is not a detail. I think English needs to be polished enough so you're credible, whether you are in UK or in US or in Singapore or in Hong Kong. And that would be my first take. Then it's business models. It goes into looking at business models. Again, I've a business that works in Vietnam. I've seen retail business, very good retail ideas, semi-e-commerce, omni-channel type of thing, very well suited to Vietnam, but could not work one single day in a market like Philippines, because retail market is very different there. You got much more malls, you got much more supermarkets, much less small shop in the streets, even though it's a very different context. So don't expect your product and your product to work everywhere. You think you need to check the facts and figures before you push it out. Again, prefer being strong in your market than weak a bit everywhere.
All right. So the number 4 you mentioned about the business English. Number 5 you mentioned about being strong and focused on your very much niche as well too. So now I think that has been a pretty good 5 tips for our viewers, guys. If you're thinking about you wanted to build your business, I think the key takeaway, like from Julian here, is about you want to build a business or your product, do it by design, and so then it will be ready for you. So just Julian, do you want to add about what are the kind of aspect, like you shared about, you already find a lot of entrepreneurs struggling with this, is they build their product very much about for a local centric in the design phase. So let's say when entrepreneurs are designing their product, what will be your tips for them so they can handle this challenge forward, or you think that they should not care about it, or what will be your tips for them?
Yeah, there are two schools of thoughts, and there's two approaches, and I'm pretty much in one and I've discovered the other. You've got the engineering side that more or less got a very clever idea and trying to make a business out of it. A small tool, a small algorithm, or a small software, a small whatever you want. It's kind of an inside out approach. I design and I try to bring it to the market. Where the business people, the one that have done business schools, more generally speaking, have a much more fine feel of the market needs and the opportunities to sell something, but have no clue of the products or the technicality of the thing you sell. So it's depends where you come from, but I had to learn how to sell the thing I've had in mind and realize that what I thought would not work in the market. So you need to confront wherever you come from, you need to understand the market and who will be your customers. And I see a lot of engineers, startuppers, very sharp, very clever, very talented, that fail in understanding who will be their customer and why they would purchase their products. And sometimes they've got bad surprise because they've got great product, but no one buys it. And that's as simple as that. And you've wasted 2 years of your time trying to make a startup, spending money, spending time, not sleeping. And at the end of the day, no one is interested in buying your products. And that's a little bit of a shame to realize it too late. So you're an engineer, go and find out what's going on at your customers. Talk to them, spend time there. You'll learn so many things and you'll bring that into your design and you're going to have a great product. But if you don't do that, you push something in the market, hope it works, and usually it doesn't.
Yeah, you actually said something really valuable. There's a high rate of failure about startups in almost everywhere. Sometimes they say that 50 to or 90% startup dies in very first 3 years, and then the remaining another 70% dies in next another 2 years. So yeah, it's been a hell of a challenging journey, and I think this is one of the key things you just said. They just hope for it, just build something and push it to the market and hope for it, and you just say the keyword. Thank you. So now Let's go talk a little bit about this EU agreement with free trade between Vietnam and EU. So what are the core messaging to it? How do you see it? And being a co-founder here, being working here, how do you think that what are the key benefits is there for Vietnamese SMEs and startup founders?
Well, this is the principle of free trade agreement is that you remove taxes on certain amount of goods and services. So it becomes more competitive selling a ton of a kilo of mango in Europe when you ship it from Vietnam compared to Thailand or other places where you make mango. So it's really making products and services for Vietnam even more competitive toward Europe, and that's a great thing. That's really a big market that is very open to Asian and probably particularly the non-Chinese goods. More and more, Europeans start to have, if they have choice, they would not choose a Chinese product, and that's can't judge on that. It's the market behavior for the reasons we know. But the opportunities for Vietnamese companies in more general is to be more competitive. Now it comes with requirements and it comes with certain constraints that you can't ship whatever you want to Europe, because you start to have problems, and if you do that, then Vietnam at the end could be blacklisted, and they could lose a lot of reputation because of those bad behaviors. So it comes with qualities, it comes with traceability, and we need to know now where a product is being made, where its raw material has been sourced. You need to prove that the product has been made in Vietnam under certain standards and norms. And that has helped over time since I came in Vietnam in 2005. And the factories in Vietnam were pretty basic, and it could be quite terrible for workers' conditions. And it got a massive improvement in a short amount of time because Vietnam joined WTO, and WTO imposes a certain numbers of standards. And Vietnam caught up with these standards very fast, upgraded their quality level, their compliance, and that's why they are so successful today. So this is a great opportunity for Vietnam to get even, and European market is probably the most demanding one. Even the level of quality and requirements that you would not have if you sell to China or South America or other markets. So great opportunity to upgrade services and products, and consequently skills. And the skills requirement for communication, for quality assurance, for customer services, and all that kind of thing needs also to follow this trend. If you want to be successful in Europe, customer service, being able to be transparent, that's not an easy thing for a lot of companies in Vietnam. Will be a need. Otherwise, you won't even get 1 foot in Europe. Now, for startups, well, this is the problem today, that there's so much startups everywhere. Everywhere we talk about startups, and everyone has the idea to fill the little gap that was missing and that's very exciting, but they start to be quite packed. So if you come to Vietnam, to Europe with a Vietnamese product developed by a startup in Vietnam and trying to reach out to European market, you better check if there's not somewhere someone doing it already. And that's probably the most difficult part for Vietnamese companies, to reach out in a market that is already pretty how do you say?
Occupied by another competitor.
Yeah, packed with a lot of companies, ideas, and so on. Now, there are still a lot of opportunities, and we've seen recent development in the video game industry, and that's where Vietnam could also offer games or services that are more of a consumer type of addictive type of, of services that could reach out to the European market. So probably in the apps and apps sector, I think Vietnam has an opportunity to really develop with the European market. Sorry.
Apps. You think that apps is a what do you choose? You think that apps is a really good option?
Apps and games particularly. I think we've got fantastic video game industry in Vietnam, and it's developing. France was also quite a strong, video game developing market. So there could be, particular partnerships between a French company that has a design but no capability, a Vietnamese company that has a concept but not really the market, and finding out, I can develop the app, you can promote the app, and we can use our two strong point, development ideas and sell and market. So I think I see that the problem is that we are in COVID period, so if you start to ship product to Europe, you may not even see your product even arrive in Europe. These days it's so disrupted. So probably the IT sector and the app would be somewhere you can still strive and succeed in short term at least.
So
but it's a dependent industry.
All right. So you mentioned about an app and game industry, which you think that it's a great opportunity for right now. So what would be the second industry you would like to mention? Which you think second industry you think that has that. So beside app and games, what could be the second industry? Do you think the educations or healthcare or consulting? Please share.
Well, the treaties have been approved and signed recently. And there's still a lot of investigation on finding out what's going to be really this FTA about. I'm writing an article that will be published in the Vietnam Investment Review next week. So I'm still trying to find out what's really going to change. And if we look at, for example, healthcare, all the protective equipment, it's a big bubble these days. Everyone wants gloves or gloves or masks. So everyone is running after opportunity. It's not going to last. It's going to be a big market, much bigger than before, but there will be a certain number of actors that will take over, and opportunities will be done. You can't just make some mask in your kitchen and ship them out and hope you'll make millions of dollars. Nothing will happen this way in a couple of months. So we need to go out of this period, this difficult period, and foresee probably the agriculture. For me, agriculture sector would be probably one of the most interesting one, and I think that's where probably Europe and Vietnam have a common point is their relationship to food and agriculture. There's really a lot of technology to be applied in agriculture in both markets, probably in different ways, but we see collaboration in the agro-tech industry as a promising, successful collaboration and partnership. I think agro-tech would be my second guess.
All right. Right. Thank you, Julian. I think that was a good thing you have shared. You mentioned about the guys. If you are in tech entrepreneurs, there is a big opportunity out there, according to Julian, to jump into the apps and games and target a French company to get partnerships. And I guess that and the second one about agrotech, about how you can use the technology in agriculture. That's one of the things. And Julian also shared about that because of the COVID, or everybody running for something mask and those are very, very short span thing, and very soon those will be taken over by some major players, and then it's going to be very hard to survive in that space. And it's also very important that when you want to ship some mask or anything to Europe, you need some really good standard approval and standards of your mask, because those will be required to ship in European country. With this one, we had a bit of touch about the COVID. So I want to hear some kind of prediction. I love hearing prediction, and some of them goes really well, some of them is really wrong. Doesn't matter, but I would love to see your thing. So normally when there is a market crash, so or let's start with this one. So now we are at August 2020. Do you see there will be a market crash in Vietnam because of COVID? What is you want to see it, yes or no?
I would say no. I would say we are in the right place not to face a major crisis. I've got good friends in Brazil and in other more tricky markets, and I can tell you they're not very comfortable with what's going on at government level. We've got the chance here to have a very strong, clear communication on what to do, what not to do, how to behave. You compose around that, but the message is clear, and people tend to accept that and follow, and they know why, and it goes very well. When the messages are all blurrish and all borderline, Brazil, US, and so on, you end up with a massive crisis, and you never see the end. And that's where I think Vietnam and a lot of other countries have managed to absorb the first wave. The second wave is here, and it's a bit higher than the first, but it's a few hundreds. So except if everything goes wild, and I have no clue why it would go wild, I don't think Vietnam would face a massive crisis, both economic and from a health standpoint. Now, what can happen is that export markets become more and more in trouble, and companies there fail, and they are failing today. It's not the end. We are in the beginning of a lot of company failures, startup failures all over there. And you end up having a smaller markets to export, and you end up having companies being very cautious in the money they spend, and that starts to look like a global crisis. And Vietnam will be caught in this flow. So if the crisis comes, it will come from outside, and something we can't do anything about, except that sometime looking at only export market for companies. Today we start to realize that it's not necessarily very safe. So, being able to have a bit of domestic set of customers, a bit of export, helps you to juggle with what's going on there. I would bet more on the domestic market in the short midterm than the export one, to be frank.
Great. I'm very much very happy to hear you also very much positive side as well. So viewers, the one of you have been very upset about the COVID and very worried about this one. Look, according to Julian, he is also not concerned at all, at least in Vietnam. But you also actually brought up a very good point. You actually shared about that that probably an export market will get impacted. So I want to get into this one. So a company was been very much, in Vietnam, particularly in software industry, let's say it's all outsourcing. And there's a lot of other growing industry was very much about export oriented. So a company was been very much export oriented, and now there no opportunity to export or been hammered down significantly. So now they have to look into the local market and have to work with the local market. So what will be your top 3 tips for those company who have been very much export oriented? What are the top 3 things you think they should do to expand their market in locally?
Big question. If you export rice, you can sell rice domestically. There's not much of a difference somehow. I went recently on a trip in the countryside where they were growing mangoes, and it was all export mangoes, and they started to see a bit of a market or demand drop. You can sell your mango locally, that's fine also. But when you have a specific product that fits into a market or a set of products, the only thing you have to do is to just take the set of services and products you have and pick the single one that will work potentially in Vietnam, and just drop the rest. Focus on where you can recover a little bit of business, instead of trying to save all your portfolio of services and try to fit that into the market. You need to revamp your whole business model, and maybe focus where you think it's mostly going to work. Again, letting go is a difficult thing to do, but that's what a leader also does, taking hard decisions that are a bit painful to your heart, because it's your product, it's your business, but you need to let go to survive. And sometimes it's a healthy move to say, yeah, let me simplify, let me maybe reduce cost to just recover a little bit of demand domestically. That would be my key advice. It depends on sectors, of course. But
what would be the second one? So that's the first one. Identify which one you want to focus on. What is the second tips?
If you want to save your export business into a domestic demand, that's a good question. I have to admit that it will be a case by case. So if you have a case to submit, I'd be happy to look at. But you could be in the pharma industry and you can't just sell your product domestically until you have licenses, and it takes 2 years to have a license, and then you're out of business. Forget about it. That's done.
There's a lot of CEO. What they're doing, they actually get reducing their staff, they're reducing their teams, reducing their OPEX cost, even working without any salary, or reducing their salary as well, reducing the salary of the top executives, or even the volunteering working, and for manager and down, they're giving them salary. So reducing the operation cost. How do you think that is one of the way they should think about, or it's not a human thing?
It will not save your business. It will save you some time. You need to find customers. You need to find people that's going to pay you to operate, and you can't just bet on cutting costs. Cutting costs has never worked as a strategy. It saves time. You can absorb probably a few extra months of activity, but it's not going to save you. So be careful with cost cutting, because first you could lose a lot of good people, and that could be even more damaging than keeping a little bit more than you need. And also from a cultural standpoint, you need to be careful into being into not communicating properly. It's very easy for people to understand that, as a leader, you're not trustworthy anymore, because you take decisions that come from the sky without explaining to people, and then people lose trust and they'll go, and then your business is out. So be careful with cost cutting, or make it clear and communicate it in a way that people understand the why behind that, and not just seeing the message coming down from the sky and say, okay, boss, I'm out. Be careful with this. It's killed a lot of companies. Even before the crisis, cost cutting has been a very big mistake that big companies have made. They've lost a huge amount of business by doing it the wrong way. So cost cutting is not saving any business. It saves time only.
I am absolutely on the same page with you on this one, Julian. There's a lot of companies who made some serious mistake about this one. I have been seeing some of this thing, and now they have no way to recover those business, which they need great people to recover the business, and they lose the great people. So
in many occasions, even I had the case in my company, people propose to say, I know it's tough. I can offer a little bit of my salary to be cut, and that's very appreciated. I really appreciated that kind of offer, because they didn't have to do it, but they proposed and they knew why. And then the commitment says, okay, I accept, and that's really helping. And what my commitment is toward them is that if we recover some profit at some point, then we'll recompensate or we'll pay back this gesture you've had toward the company. So it's a kind of trade-off. Say, let go for now, but if we're getting better later, we'll return the favors.
That's a very good way you mentioned about it. Yes. So let me get back to the prediction thing. So let's say about after COVID, what are the top industry will raise, particularly in Vietnam?
Right. So food, it has to be food. I think the food market is great initially. As I said, agro technology is going to be a big thing for Vietnam. And we need food. Whatever happens in crisis or not, we need to eat. So that's a given, and it's probably a sector that has long years ahead in terms of success. But beyond that, we're seeing it also. These online services become a trend, and in a matter of months, things have accelerated. It should have taken years for our companies to adapt to this digital way of meeting, talking, sharing. We use much more apps than communication apps than much before. So it tends to be what goes around B2B services in terms of communication, in terms of data utilization, data visualization. This is the beginning of a very high growth market. So, data, Vietnamese startups need to be able to use data in a powerful way. We've got great data scientists in Vietnam. We need more. We need more talent in the data world. And whether you're in a sector or another, data will be a must. So, investing in this type of sectors would be a good and safe choice. But we need to do something with data, and data is the raw material to a value add. If you're not clear on what you want to add as a value, then data is just useless. So be cautious also. Data is the trend, but it needs to add value somewhere. It needs to add financial value if you want to make money from it. So agrotech and data, and probably, again, I'm a strong believer and user of video games. I think Vietnam has a long future there. So.
Thank you for sharing. You added up the data analytics as well too. So data is the power, data is the new currency for in the business. So with that one, I want to go to opposite side of this one. So hey viewers, just before I get shooting the question, I want to let the viewers know that, hey guys, just go ahead and comment your question. We see there's some lovely questions coming out from a lot of viewers. So go ahead and we're going to start up the Q&A in next 5 to 10 minutes of time. Whatever question you got, just comment in the stream, and we're going to pick up this question and we're going to answer together. So if you have any questions, any advices you need, go ahead and comment. So this is the stream to comment right now and get your advice from Julian, because Julian will not be here all the time, but right now we're live and we will do our best to answer with Julian. So getting back to you, Julian, on this. So on this one, when you are doing this, COVID happening, and after post-COVID, what are the industry you think is going to be squeezed or almost like crashed? What are the industry? Some people talk about airlines, some people talk about traveling. Would you see it? What are the industry you think will be in big trouble after COVID?
It's always difficult to predict, but the industries that are particularly affected now are tourism, fashion, and I lost it. Tourism, fashion, and it will come back. But at least the fashion industry, and that's not a detail for Vietnam, because this is a big producer of footwear and fashion products. At the end of the day, and I've seen that we've seen that recently. A few big companies, big garment manufacturer, has cut a lot of their headcounts, but thousands of workers have been put aside. And we don't see it because we are in the cities and we are in a comfortable environment in the IT tech sector, and it's all nice. But workers there are actually finding it much more difficult. So the fashion industries have a social impact, an economic impact on the workforce of Vietnam, and we need to acknowledge that. Not saying that we won't have fashion products after the crisis, but as consumers, we may already adapt our behavior and probably consume a bit less of those products that we used to buy when we were shopping here and there, just for the pleasure side of it. Well, you need it, you buy it, but you may not need it all the time. And we will see this fast fashion movement probably becoming a more slow fashion movement, more quality products, which is good at the long term for Vietnam. But that's going to be a tough transition for a lot of companies in the footwear and garment sector. Now, tourism and air freight, that was the one I was missing. The aeronautic industry in more general terms, that's a tough time for them. And I've got friends that are pilots and that are stuck on the ground and are wondering whether they'll have a job tomorrow, and air hostess and airport staff, and there's millions of people working in these industries. The only thing that kind of saves the air freight industry is the freight, is the shipping goods through planes. That keeps those planes a little bit busy, but that's not really satisfying. Again, we'll probably build less planes, we'll probably fly a bit less, but we'll still need planes, we'll still need to travel, and I still myself need to go to France, to Singapore, to everywhere. I'm very frustrated about not flying now. But in the meantime, the industry will have to transform and probably get leaner and get more efficient and get probably more practical in what they do and what they innovate in. After you've got transitions also in the retail sectors and so on, but those guys are doing fine. They are adapting, and they still have customers. The volume is okay, so I'm not too worried about it. It's really the weakest at the end of the chain often that are suffering most. And again, we see that in the agro industry. A lot of farmers are struggling because the season has been quite bad. The market is low. They end up having huge debt, and they are in trouble. So it's often at the end of the supply chain or the value chain that you find the real impacts. For us, buying a bit less shirts is probably not a very bad thing.
Yeah. So you mentioned about a good thing. You mentioned about the footwear. So there is almost all global brands are in Vietnam, and they have factories, and they're producing into it in German or all kind of American brands. All are here as well too. So how do you see the impact on this footwear industry? Please share with us. I think it will be pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's a bit the same idea as fashion. Footwear is about people got locked first thing. When you're locked, you don't need much. You don't use much of your shoes. So it also goes with the consumption market in general that slows down. But factories. I've worked in factories as my job, so I kind of love it. In huge factories with thousands of workers in line that are producing shoes, Nikes, Adidas, whatever you want, in buckets of thousands of hundreds per day. Very intense work, tough job for those workers, but they end up with very quality shoes. And this is what happens in Vietnam. And they've made a fantastic transition from pretty low quality, cheap product toward very technical, and shoes is very difficult to make, technical products, high quality, that are shipped all over the world. So Vietnam has built a very good reputation in the quality of the shoes they make. Now, again, the market is not very favorable there, and companies tend to try to find a way to survive. Also, we see brands of shoes dying in Europe. There are a few names that probably people would not know, but there are companies that are in trouble for now. So for the companies that will survive are probably companies that will start to offer a little bit of a greener touch to their product. Really consider environment, and that's a European type of requirement as well, which I forgot to mention. If you start to measure your impact, your footprint, if you start to be transparent on where your products are coming from, what are they made of, then at least you get transparency, and then you can work with your export customer to find better ways to produce, less impact on the rivers, on the air, all that is something we need to work out. So every company that will make a step toward the environment protection, or at least reducing the impact, will probably find a lot of interested buyers outside Vietnam. I think it's not really sensitive in Vietnam. People still don't really care about it, our businesses at least. But outside, when we start to put CO2 and impact on the table, you've got someone interested. So be aware of that. Green industry is not just a separate trend. It goes all across the range of products and services we can offer.
Great, thank you sharing for Julian. So with this one, I want to move to another one of your core expertise about the consulting. So what are your tips, let's say, about to be a consultant? What are the skill set did you have to build inside of you?
Well, being a consultant first is something that is valuable even if you don't sell your consulting service. Consulting your family, your friends about how to get out of a problem, basically, is a bit of an art and a science, let's say, but it's useful beyond business. So I've learned a great load of things through consulting. A lot of people start with consulting to learn a little bit of some best practices, and it's a good school to learn how to be a professional quickly. But it's also a very rich type of job, because you have to work with different companies of different size, different industries, of different contexts, and you learn so much about shoes, about mangoes, about fertilizers, about planes, about everything. It's very, very rich in learnings. The key thing of a consultant is adaptability. Is being able to say, I need to talk to someone that knows very well his washing machines. Is very proud of that. It's going to be a big product launch in Vietnam, and they know very well their stuff. You have no clue about washing machines, but you need to be able to listen enough so you can have a little bit of a value add through the discussion. And listening is probably the key strength of a good consultant, beyond the blah blah, the PowerPoints and the classic things we imagine of a consultant. A good consultant is a good listener. He's not a good talker. He's a good listener first. So that's the one. After, you got tons of other aspects, more technical or more practice oriented. But I think listening is the core skill, and curiosity goes with it. If you're not interested in anything else but your stuff, there's no reason you do consulting. Go for what you like. Consulting takes you through a wide range of things, and ultimately you find what you like, what you dislike, and you experience so much that it's a very rich. I love it, to be frank. But yeah, it took me 15 years to become a decent consultant, let's say. And now I'm a managing partner, so I consult less and less, and I'm trying to have my team, keeping the level of quality I was trying to set initially.
All right. So these are the tips, guys. Being adaptive, be a good listener. Number 3, be curious, and love it. Learn to love it. So I think it's the core requirement of everything. Anything you want to get better, you got to learn how to love it. Otherwise, you're never going to get better into it.
Exactly. Needs to come with